Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to be here. My name is Susanna, and this is our all-member Zoom event. It's a special event. It is the Masters Movement. This is a special event because, after all, we know there are so many more Masters riders showing in saddle seat in this day and age, and I am continuously to let people into the Zoom event. Before we get started, I am going to just share this. This is our all member Zoom event. My name is Susanna Dussling. I am your moderator and your host for tonight's event. I am a diehard saddle seat years old. Therefore, this topic is near and dear to my heart. And I know it's very popular on social media. It seems to be a big topic among saddle seat riders. It's the Masters Movement. And I think it's amazing that we have this. We are going to be spending the next hour talking about the Masters Movement. It's going to be a fun hour. It's very informal. It's very casual. What's going to happen in this next hour, Susanna? Well, what's going to happen is I am going to introduce all our guest speakers. I'm very thankful that we have three amazing guest speakers tonight who all happen to be diehard saddle seat riders and masters riders. And then I'm going to have an informal conversation with all of them. So you are going to be able to hear from them. They're going to share their experiences, their wisdom, and their knowledge about being a masters rider. And then many of you on social media all the time ask me how to access the replay. I'm just going to quickly show you how you can access the replay. And then for many of you, the best part of this hour is going to be the last part of the hour. What exactly is that? Well, that's where you get to type in your question into the chat box and ask our speakers any question that you may want to ask them. Because I know there's always somebody dying to ask one of you a question from their experiences. And that's what I love about doing these Zoom events. We're all familiar with podcasts, but here you get to see everyone face to face, just like a TV show. So there's two ways you can ask your questions. You can do it in the chat box, but I know some of you all don't like to put your cameras on, so you can post your question into the chat box. And typically, I will ask the questions out loud to the speakers, and they will answer the question. Or for those of you that like to turn on your camera, you're more than welcome to put the video on and ask your question that way. So that's what's going to happen. I do ask that you please keep your audio unmuted unless you are actively speaking so we can have the best premium experience of the evening. And otherwise, I think that's it for me. I'm going to go ahead and get this party started. Let's go. Well, our three cast, and I'm just going to share this. I met Amy, believe it or not, when I started doing these events way back in January. I started a saddle seat community and I just started doing monthly Zoom events, and they've been a lot of fun. I've had some amazing guest speakers along the way already. I've had David Mycos, I've had Allison Deardoff, Jerome Parker, Arlene. It's just been amazing. And this month I thought, you know what? I'm not going to bring in the trainers. I'm going to hear from some of these riders are probably bigger experts than some of these trainers. I certainly hope I don't make any trainers upset, but they have a wealth of knowledge to share. My first guest that I'm going to share and talk about is Joan Todd. I have not ever met Joan before. It's through Amy who introduced me to Joan. And one thing I found, all three of them have very similar stories, and yet they never ever gave up their passion for saddle seat riding. Joan began riding as a youngster. She rode quarter horses, Morgans, and hunters and jumpers. And then along the way, she got married, and her daughter wanted to start riding. So her daughter started riding, and then Joan started taking riding lessons. And she was an amateur owner trainer. She showed for a while, and then life happened. And then, with the encouragement of a lot of friends and family, her barn family, she picked up showing again. So Joan is back showing in the Masters Division, and I would believe is up in the north, up in Indiana. I'm not exactly sure what those states are, and I'll bring Joan on in just a minute. That's a little bit about Joan. I know they all have so much more to share, but they'll share that with you as you get to know them, and it's also on the Facebook post in the Facebook group. Next up, I have Byron. Oh my goodness. It's so funny. It's kind of wild. Byron is actually here with me in the Texas circuit. I show in the Texas circuit. Byron shows in the Texas circuit. But believe it or not, we have never ever met each other face to face. I know it's wild. Y'all know how that goes. At horse shows, we're also busy getting ready to ride or hang out with our barn family or just friends and family. And then yet it's like we have to go on social media to actually meet the others that we get to know. But I already made up my mind. Byron and I are at the same horse show. I am going to meet him in person.
I'll
Okay,
be ready.
you're ready. All righty. Well, to tell you a little bit about Byron's story, he rode horses as a youngster. Obviously, he wasn't in the position to have one. However, he wrote a bunch as a kid, and then he graduated from college as a music major, and then he started taking saddle seat riding lessons in the Midwest, and he rode there for a while, and he bought a horse. It seems like his story is very similar in the sense that he buys a horse, he shows it, he wins a lot, he's got lots of mega accolades out there. I'm going to toot his horn. I mean, he's won at some of the big horse shows, and he's also been an amateur owner, trainer, and he's also shown with a trainer. And it seems like his story is typically as in he buys a horse, shows it for a while, and then life happens. And buys another horse, perhaps with a different trainer, shows it for a while, wins all kinds of goodies, and then, but he always comes back. And now he is in Texas and he is showing a horse in the saddle seat circuit here in Texas. And I was inspired to invite Byron to this event because I saw his post in the saddle seat community. And I mean, in the Facebook group, and he had so many people respond, and I was inspired. If I understand correctly, he's in his 70s. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that gives me hope. And that makes me feel young at 59. So I can do this for another 20 years or more, right?
You can. You can.
Yes, I can. So my last guest that I'm excited to bring on board is Amy Haller. And I met her, like I told you, she was one of my first attendees way back. And my first Zoom event was David. And we became Facebook friends. And she's been an advocate of sharing and growing. And Amy also started riding as a 4-year-old. Lives in Pennsylvania. And her grandparents had horses, and her aunt was an Arabian trainer, and I love how she shares. She did whatever she could to attend horse shows. I'm telling you, they slept in stalls, they begged and hitched rides to get to horse shows, and I understand that feeling, Amy. I feel like I've done that as well. And then she went away to college, and then she stumbled into a saddlebred barn, kind of similar to what happened to me, and she never ever looked back. And what I loved that she shared was that she actually bought her first saddlebred show horse with a loan from the bank. I think that is so wild.
Truth. It's the truth.
Amy, tell you this. I bought my first Arabian show horse the same exact way. I bought him but with a loan from a bank. And then, anyway, so Amy's rode saddlebreds, and since then she's been an amateur owner trainer, taking 9 horses to a horse show. And now she has horses at home, and she also has horses with a trainer. So, welcome everybody. That is a little bit about all my wonderful guests. And I'm going to start by asking a question. And like I told you, this is very informal. We get to ask questions, and I want it to be a conversation. I'm not sure who would like to start first. I'm going to start with Amy. Tell us a little bit about your riding journey and what keeps bringing you back to the saddle year after year.
Sound like my husband. Why do you're going to keep doing this? Well, first off, I want to have a special call out. So my friend from Australia, Janelle, she is on the Zoom meeting. So she's has tuned in from Australia, and how we became friends is I actually sold her a saddlebred that she had in Australia, and she will be coming back to the United States hopefully the end of this year. So sorry, I didn't mean to divert, but I wanted to make a special call out that she's attending.
That's awesome, Amy. I mean, we get to meet people from all over. So,
Yeah.
but tell us a little bit about your riding journey, or more specifically, from the master's perspective. You started at a very young age, and I also know you're 50 plus. And what keeps bringing you back?
Well, it's obviously the passion, right? I think to do this, you have to have a passion. It's got to be in your blood. You hear a couple stories of everybody that stepped away for a little bit and in their blood and they came back. And the masters movement is a perfect example of, maybe you get married and you have kids and maybe the kids ride and now it's time for you to start riding again. But I've been blessed to pretty much do this my whole career. I took a little break at college just because I didn't have any money to do it. And and then hence I took out the loan to buy my first saddlebred and then just grew from that. But it's in my blood, it's the passion, and it's what I love to do. And not many people at that master's age would have a passion so in depth of like showing horses and owning them and listening to them eat their hay at night. And everybody knows what I mean by that.
Well, tell us more.
About listening to eat their hay at night.
Yeah.
So when I'm done here, I'm going to go out and put my horses in the barn who are outside and I just do a final walkthrough and make sure everyone's eating their hay and they're happy and they're healthy and then it's time for everybody to go to bed.
Isn't that a wonderful way to end the day?
It is.
Awesome. So, Byron, tell us a little bit about your journey and what keeps bringing you back year after year.
Okay, I'm muted here. I started late. I was living in Colorado. I'd ridden as a kid and I'd moved to Denver. My job took me there and had a friend who moved, met a friend I was working for the department store and she had moved there from Chicago and she said, "Oh, I used to ride in Chicago and I'd love to find a place to ride." And I said, "Well, I'll find a barn." So I went driving around and I got through Parker and there's Cockrell's big barn sitting on the side of the road. And I thought, well, I'll go in there. And I walked in, I'm like, why do all these horses have harnesses on them in their stalls? I didn't know anything about a saddlebred or a tail set. So they had a good laugh about that and said, yeah, well, that's what we do. So I started riding with all the kids. Oh my God, like to killed me. I was 27, they were 10, 12, and 14. So here I am going around. Mary Cockwell was my trainer. She's a great equitation trainer, and she was on me all the time. You can do this, you can do this, that you got to do it right. So then I bought a 2-year-old from Dale Milligan when we went to the Big D show in Dallas, and I was at the fish fry, and there he was. So we put him on the trailer and brought him back with us. And I was there 2 years with him and showed him a few times in Colorado. Martin showed him most of the time. And then I uh, got transferred to Dallas with my job. So here I come back to Milligan's. So I brought the horse back with me, and Dale worked him for a little while. And he said, "This horse is no good." And I said, "I bought him from you, Dale." Well, they wanted me to get another horse and get rid of him, and yeah, yeah, yeah. So I showed him a few times. I was reserve winner at Big D show in a Gate of Pleasure class, and when they called off my horse's number, he stood on his hind legs, and I jumped off the back and said, "Okay, I'm not riding this one again." So I quit riding for a while. He went to auction, and then I really had the itch. I was doing stuff, but I was busy with the job. I went into wholesale clothing at that point, and then I wanted to find a place, and somebody said, "Oh, you should check this guy, Jack McGill. He's here in town, and he's working with Patty, but he wasn't then. He'd left and gone on his own." So I went out to meet Jack, and was great. So I went to Louisville with them in the first few months I was there, and somebody was going to look at a horse at Bill Wise's farm, and it was a friend of mine, and he got on the horse and it just didn't work. And when they led this horse out, I was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful horse in the world. I love him. But I just shut my mouth, didn't say anything. So it didn't work for him. And he went back to Austin or to Dallas. And I said to Jack later, I said, "Can I buy that horse?" And he said, "Do you have a check?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, I don't need to ride him. I know I can ride him. So on the trailer, he brought him home, and that was the Cardinal Point horse. And I learned so much about showing a horse with him. He was tremendous. We won, all over the Midwest, and won a ribbon at Louisville. And then I showed him 2 years. I was in a class of 38 at Lexington when it was on the track in the middle of the summer, and it was so hot. And we lined up, and then everybody said, "Okay, there's the 10 people we're going to keep. Everybody else goes back, go by." So the 10 of us did the whole class over again. It was like 95 degrees. It was so horrible. And then I got third place with the first place vote in that class. And that was the thrill. That was a thrill. So right after that, Janelle Chauvinek bought him, and then she made him world champion the next year. So, and then I had some other horses. I had a walk trot horse. I'm kind of going through all my stuff here. This is my riding journey, but I'm 73, so I have a lot of history. So I bought a walk trot mare from Shively's, the Dream a Little Dream mare, and I showed her. She was a challenge, but she was lovely. And I had her for 3 years and sold her. And then I bought a junior gaited horse from Mike Roberts. It was a Callaway horse, and I won Midwest gentleman's class with him, and showed him at Louisville, got a ribbon. And then some kid bought him, and then I bought Reed Ann horse. It was so beautiful. I'd seen it in Kentucky when we were there before, and he was a 4-year-old stud when I saw him, and he was like $250,000. And I thought, well, that's not happening. And then we found him at an auction because he hadn't worked out as a breeding horse, and they'd gelded him, so he was reasonable. And he was the most beautiful horse I ever owned, and his name was Reed Ann's Jamboree. And he was gorgeous, but he just didn't have any guts. He was problem. I just loved him. I just kept him and showed him at Louisville. I had a nice show with him, and then somebody from Minnesota bought him. So then I quit for 20 more years,
20 years.
20 years. And
So
then
what brought you back?
I started to think, if I don't do this pretty soon, I might not be able to do it. That was really my feeling. So I thought, well, maybe I can do it. So I went to Louisville. I went over to see Sandy because I liked one of the horses she'd shown. It was a junior horse. And I said, what's the deal with this horse? And she said, I already have 7 people looking at this horse. I said, no, I don't want anything to do with that. So I said, do you ever lease a horse? And she said, yeah, we do that. She said, I don't have anything right now, but if I have something, I'll give you a call. And about 3 weeks later, she called me and she said, I've got something you might be able to do. So that was the horse I have now. I'm still leasing him. I've had him for a little over 3 years. And his name is I'm a Rare Opportunity. He was Suzanne Momi's horse. And she had a job change and she needed to get some support. But she raised him she had the mare and she raised him from a baby and had to bottle feed him because the mare rejected him. And I mean, he's her baby, but he's my baby now. Anyway, he's a great horse. I love him. He's my partner. I trust him. He trusts me. He's kind of a character. He's the clown of the barn, which we kind of match personalities that way. So I'll stop and let other people talk. That's me.
Well, that's awesome, Byron. You had an incredible story. The biggest thing I heard from you is that even though you took a big break, you came back, and like you thought, if you don't do this now, it's never ever going to happen.
Mhm.
And I'm a big believer in that expression. We only have one go around in this world, and we need to make the best of it. We need to write our own story. So you need to go out there and go after it. And that's exactly what you did. And incredible. Now let's go ahead and bring Joan on board. Joan.
So I have a long and checkered past, but it's been a great ride. My sisters rode, and when I was a little girl, my one of my sisters had a quarter horse, and then later my another sister had Morgan's, and I started riding their horses, and then I rode hunters and jumpers for a while, and then I was lucky to be raised in Muncie, Indiana, where the famous Hartmeyer Stables was. And I'm still friends. It was a kick at Lexington. I won a class there this year, and Darlene Porter, who used to be Darlene Ray, was doing the interviews for Richfield. And it's always nice to reconnect with people that you knew for a long, long time doing this. But anyway, I worked for Barb Rudisell for a while, who had Morgans in Indiana when I was summers in high school and college. And then I went to college and I ended up buying a saddlebred. I actually sold my Morgan to a girl so I could buy a saddlebred that had been donated to the riding program there. I'd ridden a saddlebred a few years earlier, and it was like taking crack. I just thought that was the greatest thing. I loved the Morgans, I loved the hunters, I loved jumping, but the saddlebreds really spoke to me in a way that no other horse had. And this horse's name was Copper Gentleman. He wasn't highly motivated, but he was beautiful. And we had an awful lot of fun with him. I was lucky that Janie Ginther, who was at Hartmeyer's, one of the Hartmeyers, had suggested that I call Marcella Lar, who was retired technically, and her husband had just passed away. And I was an amateur owner trainer, and I said, "Would you please come and help me with this horse?" And she says, "Oh, I don't do that anymore." Well, that was famous last words. So we started with that. And then, I got married. I had the one horse. When I started having kids, I sold that horse to a friend of mine, and she was a wonderful home. The horse died at 37. That's a testament to her care. And for a while, I was horseless. When my daughter was 7, she decided she wanted to take riding lessons, and I couldn't get to a barn fast enough. So that started, I always describe horses, and in my case, saddlebreds specifically, kind of like a dormant virus. You can not have the symptoms for a while, but it doesn't take anything for the disease to flare up again. So it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of success with that horse. I bought this other horse, and just had a great time with him. And I remember he wasn't real talented as a saddle seat horse, and somebody suggested that I try him hunter. Well, I'd ridden hunters before, and I thought I didn't buy a saddlebred to go hunt seat. Well, then he started winning everything. So I thought, well, this may not be so bad. So it's been an interesting journey, because after that, I started breeding and raised some nice foals. Bob Ruxer lent me some beautiful mares for my stallion. I owned a stallion who was very well mannered. I was lucky. I had really good advice from people like Jim Aikman and Bob Ruxer, who had a lot of wonderful, wonderful breeding experience. And without them, I would have not done as well. But I want to shout out, there's a couple folks on this. Jeff Wenton and Jim Modica actually bought their first 2 saddlebred colts from me, and now they have the virus. So I don't know how many horses they have now, but Jeff keeps telling me that his accountant wants to talk to me, and I said I might have been responsible for a couple of them, but I'm not responsible for the rest of them. So that's been a lot of fun. And then I'd always had this itch to do parade, and I've heard every joke in the book about parade horses. And I thought, I'm not getting any younger. I found a parade set, and then my friend Dawn Kendrick said to me, "When are you going to get a horse to go under it?" And I said, those famous last words, "I am not buying another horse." At that point, I had quite a few. And of course, I worked with Shelley Fisher, and we found this wonderful half saddlebred, half Dutch horse, Candor. And he took to it like a duck takes to water. We won at Kansas City, St. Louis. He won everywhere. He was really special. I still have him. He's retired now. He doesn't know he's retired. He's 19, and he still thinks he's all that in a bag of chips. But I've I wanted a nice Western horse. I've had some good Western horses in the past. I know Amy's had some good Western saddlebreds too. And I've got my horses with Reese Ritchie now. And he liked to put me on things in the barn. And a few years ago, he put me on this mare, this rare temper mare. And I got off of her. And it's like what Byron said, and Amy's alluded to me before. Sometimes you just throw a leg over something and it just clicks. This mare, and when I got off, I had a great ride on her. I was taken with her. We just clicked. I got off, and Reese said, okay, when I got her, they said she won't load in the trailer, she won't ride in the trailer, she won't get off the trailer, you can't drive her, she can't get her around the ring. I don't know, any number of things, but she won both of her classes at Lexington last year. She's won at Bonnie Blue. She's won in a lot of places, and I've had a blast showing her. I've had Reese show her sometimes. This is one concession to my age. I've developed some asthma, so when it's really hot, it's a little difficult for me to ride. But when it's not so hot, it's my turn to ride the mare. So, but it keeps me going, and it's kept me very serious about self-care. It's kept me fit. I think in terms of longevity, what is the adjustment that I've made? Maybe I don't take some of the stupid chances I used to take. I don't want to jump on every fire-breathing dragon I see, but the passion is still there. And I've also kind of allowed myself, I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. I had a blast doing parade. It was a ton of work, a ton of work. And I understand why a lot of people don't do it, because there's a lot involved with it. But it was when I was a kid, I used to watch these parade classes, and I was starstruck. I saw Donna Moore showing and Judy Whitney showing in parade, and their gorgeous outfits and their gorgeous horses. And I thought, I mean, that was better than any movie star to me. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I'm really grateful that I got a wonderful horse to do it with. I won't say I'll never do it again, because I've learned that's a jinx for me. But it's just a passion, and I care a lot about the breed. I've made some wonderful friends. I'm just going to close with a quick story. Years ago, my mother called and asked how the horses were doing. She could never remember any of their names, even when I only had one or two. And I said, well, they're doing fine, but my bank account would look a lot better if I didn't have them. And she said, yes, dear, but your life wouldn't be any richer. And I thought that was really cool, coming from somebody who had no interest in horses whatsoever, didn't understand my passion, but understood that it was important to me.
Wow, Joan, that's an incredible story. There's so many things I heard from you, is that as we get older, that we make adjustments along the way, but it doesn't mean that we ever have to stop riding.
Correct.
And another thing that I liked that you said was that last story that you had just mentioned at the end. Yes, we would all like to have a bigger bank account, but do we want to die with tons of money in the bank, or do we want to have lived a life that was well lived following our passion?
Right.
I'm going to ask y'all one more question, if we can keep it tight, and then I'm going to turn it over to the audience. But this is really important because the theme is Masters tonight. So as a Masters rider, not so much when you were a younger rider, what's been the biggest challenge? Like, if you could area, is it confidence? Is it fitness, fear, balancing life, or something else? And then if you can share with us, how did you work through it? So perhaps maybe someone in the audience can be inspired, or they're struggling figuring out how to do this. What would that be? Who would like to start first? Byron?
You're muted, Byron.
I didn't want to step on anybody, and I couldn't talk then. Anyway, Byron muted just doesn't happen very often. So my biggest challenge is physical. I mean, I when in the 20 years I was off, I put on 90 pounds. And I knew I had to get rid of it. So that was my inspiration. I thought if I can get that off, I can ride again. So took 2 years to do it, but I did it. And the challenge, I mean, I've ridden, it's not, my barn's in outside of Houston, and so it's a 120-mile drive each way. So I go every Saturday. And my partner goes with me, and he's very supportive. And we bring the dog, and it's an outing. And barn family is so much a part of our life. And we have a bunch of great people, and I just love that so much. And that's part of what I've gotten from this whole community too. Is I mean, I've been so many different places. I lived in St. Louis and horses. I lived in Denver. I lived in Dallas. I'm in Austin now, Houston, and you just keep those friendships, and it's great when you get to see and cross roads with those people again and check up on them. And it's you all have the same passion, so it's very easy to just get back and close to them again.
That's incredible. 90 pounds. And I'm just going to share quickly. I struggle with the weight thing too, and I have to weight myself every single day. And what is one of the things
Hmm.
that motivates me is that I want to be able to keep riding. And we're not meant to be small in our family, and it's just a real struggle. But it's my passion for the horses that helps to keep me to be mindful. And so, Byron, yes, I want to commend you. 90 pounds. That's tremendous. Oh my goodness. Amy, you've shown your whole life though. But what's the biggest difference as a master's rider? And I remember in the last Zoom that you keep up with the Pilates and working out. What are your thoughts? What's your biggest challenge as a master's level rider?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge is age-related health issues. So I had to have shoulder surgery, so that put me back a while. About a year and a half ago, I had to have emergency eye surgery for a torn and detached retina as well as a bleed in my eye. That was a shock to me. And my question to the eye doctor was, how did I get this? Because I didn't have an injury to my eye to get this. And he politely told me that it was age related. So so that was an awakening. And I still have a couple of challenges with that particular eye. I think also when I got COVID in end of 2019, that also put a little challenge on health as well. Like my stamina just wasn't there, but I do everything possible to try to work out and lift weights and cardiac. But it's really been as you get older, you have more health issues just because you're not that 21-year-old. So that's been my challenge is the health issues and trying to stay on top of my game.
However, I'm pretty sure, even in spite of the health challenges, because you do want to stay on top of your game, you're going to keep working and pushing through those health challenges.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I don't know if anybody knows what a giddy up is, but that's like a simulated exercise equipment that simulates like riding a horse. So I usually do a couple of giddy ups a week with a saddle on it and the stretch bands and mimic
Hmm.
riding a horse while I'm watching Richfield video and maybe past Louisville videos just to stay on the game. So
That's incredible. Joan.
Well, I'm going to echo, I'm going to make a confession here. I'm closer to Byron's age than I am to Amy's or yours, Susanna. And I've got a birthday coming up next week. I'm going to be 67.
Okay.
Very good.
So, and all of these, I don't like to admit when I'm not as fit as I would like to be, or when I can't do what I used to be able to do. And it honestly really pisses me off. Um, so I've had, and that's affected from time to time my confidence because I've wondered if I'm up to uh, managing certain things, and I have to kind of dig down into my psyche My late former husband was very good at sports psychology. He had been a professional golfer, and he said, "I don't know a thing about horses, but being successful in any sport really starts in your brain." And that really changed the way that I thought about my riding and my horsemanship. Um, I remember the first time he saw me show, he said, "I've seen you ride. I know how good you are, but you were riding not to lose. You were not riding to win." And I've thought about that almost every time I go into the ring because the horse feels your attitude. The judge sees what you don't even know you're presenting. And probably Allison touched on this in talking about her book. But it was a different perspective for me. I have I've been very fortunate with my health, but I have had some challenges, and the stamina one that Amy mentioned is a big one for me, and I have to really work at it. I used to be able to take the cold months off. I would take off January, February, not ride because it was bitter cold. And 2 weeks of riding, and I was back where I was. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. It takes a lot more work and a lot more maintenance. So I have to be more conscious of that. And I've worked more with my doctor about the breathing. I've looked into I'm taking some medications that really help with my lungs. And when I get through an exertion and I'm not struggling to breathe afterwards, I feel like I've really gotten on top of it. So I think that's the health challenges that everyone has mentioned are very real. And it affects you psychologically. And I think you have to figure out a way to work around that.
Joan, I like that point that you just mentioned about the health issues affect you psychologically. Now, I know I didn't say that word correctly, but anyway, the point I'm trying to make at is I remember when I was younger, I would ride anything and everything, absolutely no fear. And I would ride toboggans all the time and all that kind of stuff. But like you said, when you get older, it's like, oh my goodness, we don't bounce like we used to, and we need to stay on top of the horse. And yet I like what I heard from all of y'all. We have to do stuff, whether it's exercise or be with our doctor to make sure we stay in good shape, and also mentally, so that way we can keep on riding and never ever ever stop. What
I
go
was going
ahead.
to say, one more thing. My inspiration is when I was in Dallas, Joan Cantrell was riding with us at the barn there. And I think Joan is 86 or 87. And she was showing at the top shows through last year. She's not riding right now, but I talk to her all the time. She lives in San Antonio. And she's going to come back. And she's so amazing because she's so disciplined. Oh my God. It's amazing. She's my inspiration.
And Byron, I'm glad you mentioned Joan Cantrell, because I actually thought about her being a guest for this event, because I don't know her personally, but yes, I have seen her at the horse shows. I mean, y'all would be shocked to see this lady is a little whippersnapper.
She
And I
doesn't
mean,
weigh 100 pounds wet.
and she rides these rockets. I mean, right, Byron?
Right.
And she does an amazing job. And it's like someday, if I ever can pick her ear, I'm going to be asking her, what kind of vitamins and what are you doing and what are you taking?
It's genetics for her. Her mother died at 103, and Joan is like just a fraction of intensity of her mother. Sweetie Pie was her name, and she was about 4'5", and she'd get right in your face and tell you what you need to do with that horse.
Y'all gave some great tips. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to show y'all quick, and then I'm going to turn this over to the audience. We got over close to 30 people here. So y'all can start thinking about your questions and who you want to ask, because the floor is going to be turned over to y'all in just a minute here. Now let me quickly share my screen. So for those of you, because I get this question all the time in the Facebook group, people ask me, where do you find the replay? Well, if you see my screen here, you can go inside the saddleseatcommunity.com. There is a Saddle Seat community, it's a free community. That one will always be free, and you'll always be able to get to see the current month's replay in that space. And you just go to the replay of the month in the community. And I had Earlene Smith last month. So if you wanted to access that replay or you missed it, you just simply click into it and I pull the full replay there. So once again, it's the saddleseatcommunity.com, Saddle Seat Community member, and you can access the replay. And that's how you do it. It's not that difficult. People ask me, like I said, all the time. So that's where the replays are. And for those of you that like all the replays, then we have the blue ribbon circle and you can see everything in all the past events. So I got Earlene, I got Allison, I got David, I got Jerome. So think of it like a Richfield video production. Keep on doing these Zoom events once a month, or I know next month is the Saddlebred Horse Show, at least every 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. And you can catch the replays whenever you feel like it. So that's how that happens. And now the most important part, the best part ever, is going to be the part where I ask you, who would like to ask a question to our wonderful participants? I don't have any questions yet in the chat. Does anybody have a question? Don't be bashful. A, you can raise your hand, or B, you can write your question in the chat box. Don't be bashful.
I did hear a great piece of advice recently from someone who said, if you want to be doing something in your 80s, and Byron, you reminded me of this when you commented about your friend Joan, start doing it in your 50s and 60s and keep doing it. Don't stop.
Right.
While we're waiting for those questions to come up, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and ask our wonderful panel another question. But once again, y'all don't have to be bashful unless you just enjoy hearing so much what our panelists share. Okay, here we go. We finally got a question from Jeff Winton. How can we get more master's classes added at shows?
Buy them.
Exactly.
Sponsor them. Ask for them and sponsor them.
Yeah.
I know in Ohio, where I live, we have a lot of what they call TBA classes, to be announced. So if you can check early, because those classes get grabbed up a lot of times by trainers who have a horse they want to try out or show or whatever. But and then you've got to get a couple more people to show in there beside just you, because they don't like to have 1 and 2 horse classes. So it's not a lot of money to sponsor a class. They put you in good graces with the show committee.
Yeah.
And I've gotten 5-gated country pleasure started that way. I've gotten ranch classes started that way. Master's classes, it's money talks. And it doesn't have to be a ton of money. And you can do it at a smaller show where a sponsorship's $50.
Yeah, and a division like that, you'll be able to pull people into that class because they're showing against the, we'll say, younger generation. But I used to run a horse show called the Pink Ribbon Classic, and we always had the buy a class or TBA classes. And that was a good way to engage people to participate more. But I would always ask, like, hey, we can put this class in, but I don't want to put it in just for one person. Can you recruit other people to support the class? But Joan's right, money talks. But I think it is really growing in momentum and reaching out to the show managers of having it added. Sometimes they'll do it, or they already might have a request for it.
Right.
I came from Arabians in my previous life, and they have classes for olders. And now I have a Morgan. And I'm new to Morgan's, and I discovered they have master's levels classes. And so I'm excited that the Saddlebred people are embracing that. So that's awesome. The next question is, and yes, This is from Lorraine, and we do want to hear more about Amy's story. Lorraine shared, Amy, you didn't get to say much about your fabulous horses. Who is your all-time favorite to own, and who is your favorite to show?
Wow. So I think I've said this before, like I've been blessed with some really nice, fun horses and didn't spend like six figures in with some of those horses. Probably my most favorite horse was Monaco. So that was a Pinto stallion that I bought when he was 13. And how I ended up buying him is I bred a mare to him the year before, and D Harts reached out to me and said, hey, we're selling Monaco and we only want to sell him to you. Would you be interested in buying him? And then I end up with a stallion, and then I end up with mares. And Joan, you know how it is. Then you've got babies, and that's how I met Janelle, because I sold one of my babies, one of my foals to her. And so he was probably my favorite. The most exciting horse to show, gosh, I mean, like I said, I've been blessed. I've had world champion. He's designed in pink. I didn't get to show this horse, but I own this horse, world champion, Prince Harry. I've got a fantastic horse right now that I'm extremely excited about, which is Verstappen, my country pleasure horse. And I've just had a lot of nice pintos. I always gravitate towards a nice pinto. In fact, I have a 4-year-old that hopefully will be debuting very soon. But I've been blessed with great horses. But thank you for that comment, Lorraine. I appreciate it.
Jennifer asked a great question. And I would love for the three of y'all to answer it, perhaps like in a minute or less. Are you excited to show in Masters, or might you prefer to stay in amateur? And why? Let's start with Byron.
Well, I just switched from five-gated pleasure to country pleasure, and it was like I went from a small town to a big city because I showed at the Cleveland, Tennessee show, the Tri-State show, and we had 11 in our qualifier for the five-gated country pleasure class. And I mean, it was a fantastic class, and it was really exciting. And the challenge with that is, nobody wants to show in a one-horse class, and it's nice that if you can get the competition going and have enough people to have it be competitive, and it's fun. And I usually say it's me and the girls in the class because I'm usually the only guy in there. So me and the girls are all showing, and it's just a blast.
Awesome. Joan, what are your thoughts? Are you
Well,
excited to show in Masters,
I
or do you
like
think
showing in the master's classes. I mean, there are a lot of heck of good riders in those classes. So this is not, it's not a dumbed down division. It gives me a little bit of a psychological boost, if nothing else. I mean, I like showing as an amateur, but when you're showing as an amateur, you're showing against 20-year-olds. And the reality is that the 20-year-olds have a little more gas in the tank than somebody my age, which I don't like to admit, but it's just a reality. And so but I do like, as Byron said, I like to show in a class with some size, especially my mare, because she's more comfortable with more horses in the ring. She gets anxious if it's not a big class. So it doesn't matter to me. It's a great question, but I would like to see the master's classes take off because I feel like it's like showing against your own. When you're a junior exhibitor, you're showing against people in your own age division, and we're not giving up. It's just maybe we don't trot 10 times around the ring. We trot 7 times around the ring. So there's something left in the tank by the end of the class. So it's a great question.
Amy, your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm on the same page as Joan. I'd like to see more horses in those classes. Obviously, love the division, and being able to show with your own age group is very important. And I also have to mention, I forgot to mention another horse that I owned and showed, who was a blast, which was Undulata's Spider-Man. So, like I said, I've had a lot of fun, great horses. But back to the Masters, I'm on the same page as Joan. Great answer.
Yeah, I'm the same way too, y'all. I if they would have masters class too, I would be doing the same thing, because I joke to myself and say, oh, I certainly wouldn't want to show against 25-year-old Susanna because she's going to be just going until all hell breaks loose. And but yeah, so I'm excited that there's a master's division, and I'm with Joan and Amy and Byron. I definitely don't think of it as a dumbed down division. It's just like the youth have their division and the masters have their division. And yes, there are some incredible masters riders. I mean, I don't get to show out of Texas, but just in Texas, I see it. Byron Farm has a lot of masters riders, and Milo's and John Field and May Chaddocks. I mean, there's tons of them. Don't you agree, Byron?
Yes, I do. It's the core, I think, of, there's a lot of people at our barn are close to me in age.
Are there a
And
lot of master's classes in Texas?
We have some. There's some of that. When I was riding in Pleasure, I was in a master's class qualifier. I think it was at the December show in College Station.
yeah, and we do need to grow that class.
And
And
I think, I'm sorry, Susanna.
go ahead.
I think if you have even the qualifier, and if you have to show in a combined class for the championship, that's okay for now.
Mhm.
When those championships start to get huge, then they have a reason to divide them by age. But it's not uncommon at a lot of shows to see amateurs and junior exhibitors showing back in the championship, even though the qualifiers were separate.
Right. That's a good point.
And Byron, we do that here in Texas.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, because they don't have many Morgan classes in Texas, I show an open English pleasure and
Mhm.
a junior English pleasure class, and then the adults, and oftentimes in the championships we show back again to
Right.
juniors. And I'm telling you, some of those juniors are pretty good little riders too.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Any other questions from the audience? If not, I'm going to ask a question to Byron, Joan, and Amy.
Lauren has a question.
Perfect, Lauren. What is one big lesson you have learned from showing? And what advice would you give to new people getting involved in saddle seat? Amy, that's your trainer. You want to start first?
I better get this right, huh?
Yeah, you got to get those brownie points, Amy.
So I subscribe to being a student of the game, really engaging in what you're doing, what is your goal, know the rules, be able to be matched correctly with the horse that is appropriate for you. I think that is a key component to all of that. And what advice would I give? Joan touched on this a little bit. Confidence is key here. Like, you have to go in the ring with confidence, ride to win, don't ride to not make a mistake. I think that's a key component. Always keep riding, always try to keep improving. And the beauty of this sport is, here we are having a discussion as masters that we are later in age, older, and we can do this sport. I don't know many people our age that are doing these kinds of sports.
No.
That's
I agree
my
with
thought.
you. I mean, let me just say one thing and I'll turn it back to the rest of them. I mean, think about it. Football players are not playing football at 80. So yes, we're very blessed to have a sport for the most part that is not age where you age
Discriminatory.
out, for lack of a
Yeah,
better word.
yeah,
I'm
and it's a
trying to make it
generation
fun.
sport. The grandchildren, the children, the parents, the grandparents, everybody can show horses.
And
Exactly.
someone flashed on the screen, and I want to attribute this to the right person. I'm sorry I didn't catch the name, but be coachable. When you're an adult, you still need to be coachable. My husband is not a horseman. He's very supportive, but he's like, "Why do you take lessons? Why are you working with a trainer? You know how to ride." I said, "Why does Tiger Woods work with a coach?" I mean, you get into careless habits, or you start doing things that you don't see that you're doing. Um, and you need to be coachable, and you need to listen, and you hope you have a trainer that's there to help you and encourage you, and not mollycoddle you. And I always tell my trainer, if there's something I can be doing better, tell me what it is and tell me how to get there, because I'm not going to improve and do better without that help. Um, Also, remember, for new people, um, if this was easy, everybody would do it. It's not easy. It's not easy when you're young. I think when you start when you're young, you don't know to be afraid. Okay, you don't know things that can happen. Um, but I have friends that have started in their 40s and 50s and are doing great with it. So there isn't really a limit to when you can start. Um, and I will say one thing. When I had a long break while I was having small children, and when I got back in the saddle, it was very frustrating because my body knew what it was supposed to be doing and it couldn't do it. Not for about a year or two. It took me a lot of time to get back in the groove. So I think it was a very humbling and useful experience. I felt like a grilled cheese sandwich on a Teflon pan. I mean, I was sliding all over the place. So it's good to have those experiences, because then you feel what it's like to start as an adult, and not know what to do. So be patient with yourself. Don't get angry and frustrated with yourself that you can't do things. Keep at it. You've got to keep going and keep trying, because you will get it. But like I said, just remember, this is not easy. This is not sitting and learning how to drive a car. And some people never learn to do that well either.
Yeah. Well, Joan, Susanna, you'll probably remember when Allison Deerdoff was one of the speakers, her favorite chapter of the book is being coachable. So it's a
Yeah.
very important component. So if anybody hasn't read Allison's book, fantastic read, highly recommended, but her favorite chapter is coachable.
And
One
Coachable.
one of the lessons I wanted to carry, or to let you guys know, is I carried over a lot. I was a musician and I was competitive. I was always auditioning and doing stuff when I was in high school and college. And I was always didn't communicate with the people I was going against, because then you might tip your hand. And I kind of was that way when I started riding. And then I thought, well, this is really silly. I mean, they're all trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do. And so I really opened up, and that's the most rewarding part to me of my 50 years doing this, is that getting to see those old people, my old friends. I mean, Martin Cockrell, I mean, he's 98 years old. He's still alive, and I still communicate with him. He was such a good friend to me, and he was so helpful with me when I was getting started. And all the people I competed, I was intimidated by them, so I like shut myself away from them. And Deborah Orr was one of those type of people. I thought I competed against her. I was like, I'll never beat her, and she's so good, and I don't like her. But we're best friends. I mean, we just kind of had it out one time, and then I did beat her one time. But I don't know. But so when that happened, I mean, she's a good friend, and I just love it's like the family that you have, and that's the great part of. I mean, that's why I got to go to Louisville. I got to see all my friends there, and just do that, and it's a wonderful world.
it is a wonderful world. And I know we're near the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap it up in just a few minutes here. And I respect everybody's time. I will share that Janet wrote, yes, be patient. Approach each ride as a new ride. The bad rides are misleads with yesterday's issues. I agree 100%. Before we close out the hour, I want the three of y'all, I'm going to ask you the last $1 million question, but you got to make the answers more of a rapid fire response. If everyone watching tonight could remember just one piece of advice from you, what would you want it to be? Byron.
The love of the horse.
The love of the horse. Joan.
Follow your dreams.
Follow your dreams. Amy.
Ride smart, ride hard, give it your best shot.
Ride smart, ride hard, give it your best shot.
and trot
everyone.
on.
This was amazing. And I love how there were younger people in this Zoom event tonight, too. And I hope you took away some wisdom because, once again, this wisdom applies to everybody. It does not matter how old you are. I want to thank Joan for being here, Byron for being here, Amy for being here, and all our wonderful participants and all the great questions that you asked. And I will be back next month with another event. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but look for it in the Saddle Seat Facebook group. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks again for being here. Y'all were
Thank you,
amazing.
Suzanne.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Bye. Thank you,
Thank you
Suzanne.
for everybody participating.
You're welcome. Good
Get
night,
out there and
everyone.
ride.